So I've been making this survival crafting game for a while now, where you play as the only sentient being in the whole galaxy, a robot. Your goal is to terraform Mars and bring life back to it. Over the last 5 months, I've made steady progress, adding mechanics like power, terraforming, base building, and exploration. But there were 2 problems. First, these systems worked well on their own, but not together. And second, no one else apart from me had played the game yet. What if it actually sucks and I'm just wasting my time? From day one, I knew I wanted to validate the idea and run a playtest as early as possible. Every dev works in their own bubble, and feedback is the most valuable thing a dev can get. Even these devlogs exist for that reason. Your feedback already helped improve a lot of things, sometimes even before I built them. Showing the game through videos is great, but the final boss is actually letting people play it. Every dev, myself included, gets scared by this. What if people don't like what I have made? What if they hate it? And worst of all, what if no one even plays it? These fears are what usually stop people from sharing their work early. But even if things are as bad as we fear, it's still better to find out early so you can fix it or move on. Because learning that after a year or 2 of work, a lot of time, money and health already spent is gonna hurt even more. My initial idea for the playtest was to just make a short version, about an hour of gameplay in a small and restricted area using only the features I was sure worked well. But then I realized that's the fear talking. I had 2 main goals with the playtest. 1, to find out if the game is fun, and 2, to make sure everything is working as expected, aka finding and fixing bugs. After setting those goals, I realized something. Even if this is just a playtest, I want people to have fun, to really enjoy the game the way I envisioned it, and to see everything I have built. Only then I can get meaningful feedback. That's when I decided to treat this playtest like a full release. I will polish everything I could, fix as many bugs as possible, and add more content so players always have something to do. I also planned an actual ending for the playtest and decided to feature anyone who reached that point in the game's credits. First, I finished the starting area. I deliberately didn't include a tutorial in the game since you gain abilities by upgrading your backpack and adding modules, so making sure everything works smoothly from the start was crucial. Then, I balanced the whole game, power requirements, building costs, mining times. This was a boring process because every change affected the whole game and I had to keep restarting to see if something broke. But in the end, it was worth it. If I hadn't spent days here, the outcome might be totally different. Before the balancing, I thought the game was stable, but after playing it over and over again, I realized it really wasn't. I fixed over 100 bugs right before the playtest release just by playing my own game. Since I knew the world was empty and I decided to release it in full size, I needed to fill it with explorables. I added a lot of them, but then I ran into a problem. There are caves in the planet you need to find and enter to mine uranium and finish the game, but their entrances are small and easy to miss. It was very time consuming finding one by just exploring. I didn't find out about this before because I always use some form of developer tool to find the cave and mine the uranium while testing. So, I added a radio tower-like building near your starting base. Once you unlock rovers and the mining module, you can remove the giant stone at the entrance and power the scanner inside. It requires more power to increase the range, so you will need to either build a small base there or run cables from your main base. Once powered, it reveals all the explorables on your compass. Just this addition alone got a lot of praise from the players. This is one very important lesson here. You have to play your game as your players would, and you have to do it countless of times to get it right. By the way, the game is called Blossom, the Seed of Life. If you're excited about it or want to support development, the best way is to wishlist it on Steam. It really helps and you will get notified about future releases and demos. Link is in the description. Next, I created the ending for the playtest. I wanted it short but memorable. I've already shown the idea of space stations in earlier videos. I already created a small space station to be used as a tutorial area, but I completely scrapped it. Because the first impression the players will have on your game is really important. I didn't want players to get stuck in a place with no access to core mechanics like mining or crafting. I'm glad I repurposed it as an explorable space station so it wasn't a complete waste of time. To reach the space station, you need to build a launch panel, find and install the coordinates, mine uranium from the caves, and craft a uranium fuel rod. Then you can launch to the station. Inside, you open the vault and find a single seed of life, which triggers the end screen. You also unlock the heater blueprint and start temperature terraforming. After that, you can go back to the planet and keep playing, but that's where most of the current content ends. Before release, I added Google Analytics to the game, track which objectives players completed and how far they progressed. That helped me see where players got stuck or what took too long. I got amazing data from this and even rebalanced a couple of things in the first patch to make the experience smoother. I also added a crash reporting tool called Sentry. It logs the last 100 debug lines, which really helped catch a couple of hard to reproduce type of bugs. On release day, I cleared my whole week to focus on bug reports and feedback. I knew the hype would fade fast and I had to act quickly. I used Steam's Playtest feature and distributed keys manually so I could slowly onboard players. My plan was give keys to a few people, fix all the issues, then open it up to more. That way, each group got a more stable version than the last. This resulted in 6 patches in 1 week. There were major bugs like blueprint disks falling through the world and disappearing, and lots of minor ones like the UI shaking. I have never noticed it before for some reason. People also made great suggestions like adding regolith deposits and shared quality of life ideas like mouse input for crafting menus. There were about 15 hours of solid gameplay in the playtest version. Players could go 30 plus hours if they weren't trying to rush. After 2 weeks of playtesting, 4 people actually played over 40 hours. In total, 195 players tested the game. The median playtime was 2 hours 45 minutes, which blew past my expectations. I received 90 feedback entries and I have already addressed 77 of them. 15 players reached the end screen, averaging 11 hours of playtime. 10 of them sent me a screenshot and will be featured in the game's credits as alpha testers. As you can already guess by now, this whole thing was a massive success for me. Seeing people play, share screenshots and talk about a game I made is just incredible. I'm so grateful to everyone who played, reported bugs or shared ideas. I'm also really happy that the core gameplay turned out fun and something people want to keep playing. Of course, not everything is perfect. Some bugs are still there and some feedback is still unresolved. Some people found the game too grindy, some too hard, some didn't like how the controls work. But now that the core loop is validated by the general audience, everything else can be fixed over time. If it didn't, my plan was to pivot to something else. It was a really exhausting process, but I learned a lot. I learned how valuable even a single piece of feedback can be. I learned that you have to enjoy playing your own game, because if you're not having fun, no one else will either. I also learned how important it is to set your ego aside and make changes when more than one person points out an issue. I was reminded again how crucial tracking and data is. You need to see what's happening in your game through numbers and events, because players might not tell you everything. And finally, I learned just how hard it is to be a solo developer doing all of this alone. Oh wait, I already knew that one. So what's next? Now that I know the game's strengths and weaknesses, my first goal is to build a public demo and release it as soon as possible. That way, I can keep collecting feedback while continuing development. I will say the game is about 60% done. What's left roughly in order is soil terraforming, water machines, plants and farming, oxygen terraforming, and finally, life itself, animals. I will also be adding more content along the way like new machines, space stations, points of interest. And eventually, I will finish and fully integrate the story as the final piece. If you're interested in the progress, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I will keep doing devlogs when there is meaningful progress. Don't forget to wishlist the game on Steam. And if you want to chat about the game or game dev in general, feel free to join the Discord server. Both links are in the description. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.